Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Midas Letter RAW. I noticed that we've noticed that we haven't been here all week, and you might wonder why that is. Well, let's just say that we've decided to tighten up the show a bit. We're going to do it once per week now on Friday afternoons, unless it's a holiday, in which case it'll be on Thursdays. And it's just going to be a lot tighter, and there's just less of us to go around, so you're going to have to tune in on Fridays. Or on demand on any of our platforms, the website at MidasLetter.com, YouTube /Midas Letter, Instagram /Midas Letter, everything /Midas Letter. Ed, how have you been? I haven't seen you all week.
It's been a week. Yeah, I'm good. I haven't had a drink in 12 days.
Oh,
12.
Boy, the audience is going to be
12
disappointed.
12 days of sobriety, my true love said to me. Anyway.
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, well, you know what? Look, I've done this many times, okay? So where is this going to end? But I've been drinking non-alcoholic beer, and I got to tell you, I think there's a
future there?
A future. Anyway.
Speaking of the future, I, as you know, just came back from Lima, Peru. Now, Peru is one of the toughest places in the world to do business. The last 4 presidents of the country have now been arrested for various acts of corruption.
Really?
Yes. Pedro Pablo Kaczynski was the last one to be arrested yesterday. So, you know.
He was arrested yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah, while I was there. So, interestingly enough.
How about if I want to get you incarcerated, I should get you to be president of Peru first?
Well, that's what some might say. But the great thing about it is that the reason they've all been incarcerated is because Peru and Latin America generally is on a real anti-corruption binge. And the funny thing about Peru, you know how a lot of times it'll seem like the media in the civilized world is really aligned with industrial and political interests. They don't really come across as journalistic. They don't really come across as necessarily unaffiliated. Whereas in Peru, journalism is very much aligned with the people. And so they really go hard at exposing these acts of corruption.
Right.
And so, whereas you'd think, well, that's going to be really tough to do business if all the presidents are getting thrown in jail. Well, now it's so tough that they've got real clean government going on there now. So it's interesting. But
clean government, that might be an oxymoron.
Well, that would be a first. But yeah, so that was great. So we met with a group of Spaniards who are actively developing a biotechnology plant in Peru that is going to create EU GMP certified extracted concentrates of both CBD and THC from a wide variety of facilities. So real exciting project down there. I can't wait for that one to go live.
What's the next biggest city in Peru after Lima?
Number 2 city in Peru is Arequipa.
Oh, Arequipa, where there was a big gold mine, remember?
Yes.
That got taken out by...
that's right. Catherine McLeod's
Catherine
thing.
McLeod, yeah.
What was that company called? I remember now.
Arequipa.
Oh, it was called Arequipa Gold. That's right.
Oh,
boy, yeah. Real genie eye here.
I took a wild guess.
Yeah. Now, 32 million people there, and nobody yet is providing
in Lima.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in Peru. In Peru.
Lima
and Lima's what, 10 million?
Yeah.
Wow, it's a city, almost a city-state.
No,
right?
it's a big market, and so we're going to be one of the first countries, one of the first companies to provide cannabis there to
Am I in the room?
Community. You're in the room, Ed. You are in the deal.
All right.
That's
what I want to hear.
Everybody who works here is in the deal.
All right.
All right. Let's take a look at what's coming up today. Today's show, we have news with Ricky Gerwitz, of course. David Kideckel is going to be here from AltaCorp Capital. Peter Miller, CEO of SLANG Worldwide, will be here. And Pierre Gauthier from Auxico Resources. Vinay Tolia, he's the CEO of Flowr Corp, joins us. Cam Battley is going to be here. We're going to talk about Aurora Sun. Steve Meisner is going to join us for he's going to join Ed for a quick conversation about capital markets.
We talked about the economy and all the stuff that's going on, and the fact that interest rates are now looking like they may go lower as opposed to higher.
Yeah, well,
anyway.
Interesting. Here's Ricky Gerwitz with some news for you.
Here are the week's top headlines. Chemistree Technology Inc. announced that its wholly owned U.S. subsidiary, American CHM Investments Inc., has signed a letter of intent to partner with Applied Cannabis Sciences of New Jersey. Applied Cannabis Sciences is a New Jersey-based medical retail dispensary applicant in the upcoming New Jersey round of request of applications, which is anticipated in 2020. The new partnership has the potential to expand Chemistree's presence outside of California and Washington state, and ultimately introduce its signature brand Sugarleaf to the large New Jersey consumer base. Khiron Life Sciences Corp announced Tuesday that it has signed a definitive agreement for the acquisition of Netagrowth International Inc. Netagrowth owns all of the outstanding shares of a Uruguayan company that has obtained the first license to produce and export medical cannabis with THC for commercialization in Uruguay. On closing, Khiron will issue 8.5 million common shares to the shareholders of Netagrowth at a deemed price of $1.61 per common share. Upon completion of the acquisition of Netagrowth International Inc., Khiron's total production capacity is expected to increase to up to 220 tons. Green Thumb Industries Inc. reported losses of $7.67 million in 2018 on Tuesday in its financial results for the fourth quarter and full year ending on December 31st, 2018. The company's fourth quarter revenue was $20.8 million, equating to a 21% sequential growth, and its full year adjusted EBITDA was $21.5 million and $12.4 million in Q4. All currency is in US dollars. CannTrust Holdings Inc. announced Monday that its cultivation and processing permit under Health Canada cannabis regulations was amended to include the final 20% of its Phase 2 expansion. The entire 450,000 square feet of its perpetual harvest greenhouse in Pelham, Ontario is now fully licensed. WeedMD Inc. announced Wednesday that it has closed the purchase of an additional 60 acres of prime land located directly adjacent to its 98-acre Strathroy property. WeedMD's outdoor grow now has the potential to increase to more than 100 acres. With the announcement, the company's Phase 2 expansion will increase its outdoor operations to 75 acres for an overall outdoor cultivation of 100 acres, which will be online by 2020. Tetra BioPharma Inc. announced Thursday that it has entered into a collaboration agreement with Avensa Inc. The partnership will evaluate Triozan, a proprietary nanomedicine platform for targeted delivery of cannabinoids to brain tumor cells. Avensa's Triozan delivery platform allows a high engineering flexibility, where personalized nanomedicines are designed according to various parameters, such as pathology, gene and molecular profile, and cell targeting. Canopy Growth Corporation replaced Goldcorp Inc. in the S&P TSX 60 index, effective prior to the open of trading on Thursday. Concurrent with the replacement, Goldcorp will be dropped from the S&P TSX Composite Index. Newmont Mining Corp is acquiring Goldcorp in a transaction expected to be completed soon, pending final conditions. The S&P TSX 60 addresses the needs of investment managers who require a portfolio index of the large cap market segment of the Canadian equity market. Trulieve Cannabis Corp announced Wednesday it earned $43 million in its financial results for the full year ending on December 31st, 2018. Highlights include a revenue growth from $28.3 million in Q3 to $35.9 million in Q4 2018, and an adjusted EBITDA increase from $12.6 million in Q3 to $15.2 million in Q4. All currency is expressed in US dollars. MPX International Corporation announced Wednesday that it has entered into a definitive agreement to purchase all of the outstanding shares of Hollyworld SA. This acquisition represents a major step in MPXI's expansion strategy, adding a highly recognized brand to its portfolio, as well as one of the largest Western European outdoor cultivators of high CBD flowers. And that's your news for the week.
Yeah, Chemistree Technology is a really interesting proposition. They are one of our clients, but this Sugarleaf brand is something that everybody's been after down there. It's probably one of the most recognized brands in cannabis in both California or in Washington State, and will now be available in New Jersey, which is Chemistree joins the ranks of the multi-state operators.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And I you know, it's been sort of in that narrow range, moving around between high 50s and low 60s, closing around 60, 62. Mm-hmm. Let's see what it's doing here today. Yeah. Let's just see.
Let's take a look at the markets generally too. So what was the big news of the week, would you say?
You know what, I noticed a couple things. I noticed that, let's stand up and be tall here. Like the one thing I noticed was that this isn't news, but Tilray continues to head south.
Tilray?
It's down under $53 now.
It's certainly fallen out of favor, hasn't it?
Well, I don't know if they've lived up to all the hype. Others are doing well. Mm-hmm. Today, weed was down big yesterday. It's up big today.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
News?
Oh, right.
Oh, I know. Here's something. Larry Kudlow.
Yes.
Well, Steve's going to talk about this later.
All right. How about we talk to David Kideckel now from AltaCorp Capital. He's going to talk to Ben. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Welcome to Midas Letter Live. I'm with David Kideckel. He is the Managing Director and Senior Analyst at AltaCorp Capital. David, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Now, last week, AltaCorp initiated HEXO with an outperform rating and a $10.50 per share price target. That implies another 50% or so upside from current prices. Now, could you explain why you like HEXO so much and what are the salient points on that report?
Absolutely. So I'll take a step back for a second. We actually launched on a number of names last week. HEXO is one of them. We also launched on Cardiol Therapeutics. As you know, Ben, April 1st was a big day for Ontario when legalized cannabis dispensaries were allowed to actually open up. One of the big problems, I was at the grand opening, I should say, of Fire and Flower just last week out in Kingston, Ontario. One of the big problems with branding for any cannabis company out there is the restrictions that Health Canada puts on what any company or how they're allowed to actually brand product. This was clear for most of the companies, not one in particular. Looping that back to HEXO, and we initiated on them, as you mentioned. We view this whole cannabis sector as going into a few different directions. One of them, which is one of the biggest areas, will be branding, beverages, and the CPG space. HEXO really does this all, and they do a lot more. They're one of only 3 cannabis companies, major cannabis companies in the world, to have an industry-leading partnership with Molson Coors. The joint venture, or the JV, is called Truss. We view this as a big deal for HEXO, and we feel that most people on the street really haven't given them the credit for senior management at HEXO to really be able to pull this deal off. You look at a company like Molson Coors, one of the world's leading beverage companies, and now with Molson Coors and HEXO with Truss, the JV, they're conducting world-leading product innovation and general R&D.
Now, do you think that the Cannabev space is going to take off? I know there was a lot of chatter about that last year when the partnership talk was taking place at the high end of the tier 1 cannabis space, and of course, HEXO snagged that deal with Molson Coors and Aurora with that extra equity stake from Constellation Brands. Now, is it your belief that the Cannabev space will take off, or was it something that was sort of perhaps a fad and that has a chance or risk of not really catching on with mainstream consumers?
No, I think it's one of the big problems in the entire industry. This is also true in the US, is the technology just isn't there to produce quality non-alcoholic cannabis beverages. I don't think this is a fad at all, and in fact, if you look at very mature markets like Colorado, where as a percentage of total cannabis spending, beverages only contribute maybe about 2 to 4%, depending on which year we're talking about. A big reason for that is because the drinks just don't taste good. You get companies like Molson Coors and HEXO now that are tweaking these types of products, and I think the market will respond appropriately. Now, a big part of this too, with the U.S. Farm Bill being approved back in late December of 2018, this just opened up a huge opportunity for HEXO in particular to move into hemp-based CBD-infused beverages. And in fact, the way we've modeled HEXO, we've taken our usual discounted cash flow analysis, and we've assigned a price both on HEXO with Truss and HEXO without truss. So we see this as contributing to the overall share price. And I just want to...
Sorry to stop you there. Is it hard to make assumptions what that discounted cash flow might be, or with that model? Or are the assumptions sort of hard to make, seeing that the product isn't out there yet and that the space hasn't really taken off?
That's a great question. So in fact, we've come in quite conservative, just like all of our research reports, and we've taken our numbers down, and we've modeled those according to how we think Canada will eventually catch on with the beverages. So I would say certainly there, in any analyst's role, you have to make certain assumptions. What I could say is that our assumptions have been very conservative, and there's a lot of room for upside for HEXO. Just pointing out, you probably saw the deal a few weeks ago. I remember speaking with James about it, HEXO and Newstrike. This really has bolstered HEXO's distribution now, and now they'll have a solid distribution throughout 9 provinces in Canada.
Terrific. Now, last week as well, you initiated a speculative buy and $9 per share price target on Cardiol Therapeutics.
Yep.
What is it that you like about this company in particular, and is it a biosynthesis play, which could be the next Cannabis 2.0 trade, in due course?
Cardiol Therapeutics, yeah, that's another name that we're very bullish on. They really stand out. I would position them as a biotechnology company. They're engaged in clinical trials, and also they're going to be selling medical cannabis, whether that's through online or through pharmacies or direct to consumer. We have yet to see how that strategy is going to move forward, but I wouldn't say right now they're into biosynthetics. They're into chemical synthesis, and in fact, their exclusive partner out in the U.S. is Noramco. They're arguably the world leader in chemical synthetics when it comes to controlled substances. So through Noramco, what you're going to see through Cardiol's product, at least on the medical cannabis side, this is going to be a 99.9% pure CBD product. I'm certainly not aware of any other products like this.
Synthetic products.
Synthetic. But you have to remember, CBD is CBD is CBD. It doesn't matter. The chemical structure doesn't matter whether you're talking, if it's coming from a plant or through the chemicals synthetic side. Now, so medical cannabis is one area that they're very active in. The other two, and one of the most massive unmet medical needs, is in the area of heart failure. And this is another area that they're pursuing active clinical trials in. They're going to be starting phase 1. And also, that's a massive unmet medical market need. And then they're also engaged in rare diseases or orphan diseases. And I used to work for the world leader in rare diseases, a NASDAQ listed company. So this rare disease is called glioblastoma. It took the lives of Gord Downey, some famous people. And we feel, I'll back up a sec. The approach we've taken a sum of the parts analysis. So we've valued each part of their business and not looking at it just as a whole thing. So we've modeled medical cannabis, glioblastoma, and also heart failure, and there's a couple of other things too, which I don't think it's necessary that we get into, but this was a very thoughtful approach, and again, backed by really strong management. And I can't emphasize enough in this whole cannabis space the premium that folks should be taking when it comes to strong management, because we've seen certain companies out there, some have failed, some are on the verge of failure, and I'm not going to point out any one in particular, but we feel that the ones that will win will have very strong management teams. And Cardiol Therapeutics and HEXO are just 2 examples of that.
Of course. Now, speaking of the biosynthetics trade, even though Cardiol Therapeutics is on the periphery of that, a lot of people like myself, some other analysts and other people I've spoken with, believe that there's a lot of potential there, but the time may not be now. It's sort of timelines are a little bit dicey. Is it a few months from now? Is it a year from now? 2 years from now? Sure. In your opinion, since AltaCorp and yourself personally specialize in the biosynthetics industry or side of the cannabis trade, how much of a long cycle item is that, and when do you expect that trade to emerge?
Sure, so it's a very timely question, Ben, because we were just published just this morning in the Wall Street Transcript Live. and the feature headline was on biosynthetically derived cannabinoids. We actually give a whole sector oversight in general, but biosynthetics is one of them. Now, this is a very infant area as well, but we do feel it's poised. The whole cannabis sector is poised for a big disruption. We don't believe that the question becomes plant-derived versus biosynthetically derived. We see the two working really in tandem. And the major reason, one of the major reasons, is because when you're talking about very rare cannabinoids, whether this is CBN, CBG, there's over 100 different cannabinoids in the plant. It's just too cost prohibitive for any company to extract these from the plant. So there's a huge opportunity now.
Is the technology there right now to bring it to market, to get the regulators on side, or when are those timelines going to take place?
So good question. No, I would say that the technology isn't there. In fact, so I would say from the timeline to commercialization, the estimates I've seen, and I've spoken with a number of different of these biosynthetically derived cannabinoid companies, anywhere from 18 to 24 months until companies are going to be able to produce this at scale. Now, that said, there's also only a handful, maybe if any, that are actually public right now. So most of these companies are all private. So with respect to I wouldn't even call it a trade. I would say from an investor point of view, if you're looking to get in with these companies now, as they transition to becoming public, now without question is the time. Private placements, and even for companies that go through, whether they're RTOs or IPOs, and we're involved with a significant number of them. So now I would suggest is the time. And going back, just comparing biosynthetics versus synthetics, which is really what Cardiol is doing right now, I can't highlight enough the importance of a medical cannabis product from Cardiol in particular, where you're looking at, by Health Canada's standards, it meets the definition or criteria to be able to brand itself as a THC-free product. Now, and we believe that Cardiol will be able to put a premium on the price for the actual product because of that, because we don't know of any other product out there that can claim that they're THC-free.
Okay, so they pass the regulation muster, so to speak, already, or most of it anyway.
Yes, in fact, we talked about Noramco, but their other manufacturer that I toured just about a week or two ago was Dalton Pharmaceuticals, and they're a private-based company. And what Noramco does, they produce the CBD. It comes in a powder-like form, pure CBD. That in turn is shipped to Dalton Pharma, which is based here near York University in Toronto. Dalton then comes and makes the final product. And all of Dalton's facilities are all based on, forget about EU GMP certification, which is something we hear a lot for export into the German market in particular. These are CGMP, which stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practices. This is the gold standard used in pharma. So the fact that Cardiol now is able, or will be able to sell medical cannabis produced in CGMP type facilities, they'll be able, we think, they'll be able to command a premium price for their product.
All right, terrific. Now, finally, I want to ask you, I understand that you have a new deal coming up, or closed, or perhaps you could describe it further, Harborside, the Harborside deal. Can you explain more about that and why you like it, and the details of the...
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what I can share, that AltaCorp Capital just launched this deal just this morning. This is a California-based play, and we've already said in our previous reports, California is the second largest market in the world.
Yep.
By about 2022 or so, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 10 billion of the market in general. So California, without question, is the place to be. You saw the deal last week with Cresco and Origin House. Origin House being another California focus. So we're bullish on California in general as a market. And then back to Harborside, the deal, at least what I'll comment on, it's going to be up to a $70 million deal, and it's not a private placement actually. As AltaCorp Capital, we're the lead agent for this, and we're going to be taking them public.
Okay. Are you not scared off at all about the California regs and about some of the competition there? Because there's a saying in cannabis that if you can make it in California, you can make it anywhere, just because there's so many producers, and some of the regulations are quite stringent.
Yep.
Or the opposite of that, actually, there's a lot of players and a lot of dry flower on the market. Does that not scare you off at all, or do you think California will settle itself down and regulations will become more stringent going forward and sort of weed out some of the menial players?
Sure. Again, another great question, Ben. So I've toured California extensively, going to a lot of these dispensaries, cultivation sites, etc. And it's true, California has some pretty strict rules and regulations, which I think is ultimately good for the market, because as the industry matures, it's going to weed out, no pun intended, the so-called illicit or black market to cannabis. So the fact that California is coming down hard with regulations, I think only helps companies, and those companies that can navigate around these complex regulations and rules, I think those are the ones that are going to be winners. And certainly California is a crowded marketplace. We see a number of U.S. vertically integrated cannabis companies or MSOs playing in California. And Harborside is just another example of one of those California-based plays that we're happy to get behind.
All right, terrific. Well, David, thank you. Well, we're going to leave it there right now. David, thank you again for joining the program. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Ben.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. I gotta say, I really enjoy David's contributions. He's quite knowledgeable. You know, he's really putting AltaCorp on the map as a player in the cannabis space, and certainly advance intel on these deals going public like Harborside is testimony to his connectivity in the industry.
There you go.
I think we should talk to him more often.
You know what? Seems like a real professional. He's
Now,
a PhD, by the way.
He has a PhD.
Yeah.
Really? In what?
In something
Nuclear physics?
not nuclear
particle
physics, but something to do with neurology or something to do with this part of the
LSD? Something. Well, when you do this, Ed, I'm wondering, like
PhD.
psychotropic plants.
No, he's a. It's right on his card. We had a nice chat, and I said, "Oh, you're PhD." And he said, "Wow,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
guy's an educated guy."
You know, while I was in Peru, my plants were growing.
Now, don't tell me that they're bigger.
They're bigger, and they're looking really healthy.
You know, maybe you should just leave them alone.
Well, this is the thing. If you
Whoa!
think-
Look how big they are.
Look at those girls, eh?
Oh.
They look like some happy little babies.
You know what? You've righted the ship.
I have righted the ship.
Yeah,
See,
there was
this is the thing.
there was some concern there that
Wow.
we're going to have yellow marijuana.
Yeah, well, there was some yellow
Would
marijuana.
yellow marijuana
growing.
still work? Probably not, eh?
Sorry?
Yellow marijuana.
Yellow marijuana would not work. You probably never get it to the flowering mode if I mean, that's just a situation.
Green is life.
Green is the color of health. Imagine if it's like pink is the color of health. You're in the pink. What is the color of a lack of health for human beings?
Black.
I think it's yellow.
Yellow.
Because
oh
you
yeah,
know when your liver-
when you're jaundiced, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, jaundiced.
But if
Well,
your skin is
I was
black-
thinking of when you get a bruise, right? You get a
Oh.
black mark like the blood.
Well, and if you have necrotizing tissue.
No, you're right about the yellow.
Yeah, but it's also, your black is right too. If you have gangrene, what
Yeah.
happens? Your skin turns black.
No. I
your
know
legs
that,
fall off.
You know,
I had gangrene once.
our doctor claims he can look at someone,
Uh-huh.
and he's quite a character, and he can look at someone and tell you if you got some major problems just by looking at
Oh,
you.
I can tell when somebody's got major problems by looking at him. I saw a guy today, I'm sure he was riddled with cancer.
Oh, you got that look, eh? Was he smoking?
No, he wasn't smoking, but he just looked, his skin was so sallow. It was yellowish, and
Yeah.
he looked, his eyes were cloudy, and and he was grimacing with every step, and I just thought, oh, that guy's got something major going on. It looks like cancer, but who knows? I'm no doctor.
Oh, yeah, well, anyway, everybody's got his problems.
Yeah. What?
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Ed, so you were talking to a gentleman earlier this week about the upcoming biosynthetics conference that is being held by Paradigm Capital at the Design Exchange here in Toronto on Monday. Next week's actually a big week for the cannabis industry in Toronto because we have the Biosynth conference being held by Paradigm at the Exchange Design Exchange.
Yes.
On Tuesday, you have GMP's Cannabis Conference.
Yes.
On Wednesday, Benzinga Cannabis Conference is on.
Yes.
And
lots of conferences.
Yeah, a whole bunch of conferences going on. Are you going to go to any of those? We're going to go to the Biosynth conference. Actually, there's something that I wanted to tell you all about, is that next week we're running a special on Monday that is going to be all about biosynthetic cannabinoid manufacturers and producers who are gathering en masse at the Design Exchange in downtown Toronto as a result of Paradigm Capital's Biosynthetics Conference, first of its kind. We will be there to interview all of the CEOs, and we're going to shoot that live from on site. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Wowee.
So yes, well, the show Midas Letter RAW is once per week now.
Yeah.
We will have other special features coming into the mix from different locations around the world. For example, in May, we will be broadcasting live from the YouTube studio in New York City. In May, we will be broadcasting live from the YouTube studio in Berlin, Germany, as well as in London, England. You don't say pity.
Cheerio.
And then also we're going to be in Paris, France. Oui. C'est ça. Je suis désolé. Tabernacle. There, that's what's going on.
Tabernacle.
Anyways, Tabernacle. Tabernacle, Mormon
means-
Tabernacle Choir.
I grew up in a French community, and that was one of their favorite cuss words.
Let's hear you speak French.
Parlez-vous français?
Si.
Église Saint-Joseph?
You just said the name of a church.
Yeah,
Come
well,
on.
I said it in French.
Well, but geez, that's not speaking French.
Okay. The Church of the Saint Joseph.
That's better.
Rivière au Canard.
Alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, chantez blumeret, chantez blumeret les yeux, chantez blumeret
How do you
les yeux,
say?
et les
How do you
yeux.
say eyes?
Oh.
Eyes in French. Eyes.
Eyes, les yeux.
Yeah. How do you spell it?
Y-E-U-X-S-T-L-B-R-I.
Alphabet. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's Y-E-U-X.
Yeah.
for the
But there's a
pair.
word, oi. O-E-U-I-L-L-E-S. What's oi?
That's oil.
Is that bird?
Bird oil?
Bird shit. Bird shit.
Bird shit. No, I don't think so. That's mierda.
Yeah, there was a guy in our high school. His name was Robin Crapper, and that was his nickname, Bird shit.
Because his name was Robin Crapper? That's a great name. I wish I had a name like that. You know
Robin
what?
Crapper?
My grandmother gave my brother and I nicknames.
Robin Crapper.
I was Curly Vandercrap. My brother was Blondie Stinkbottom. And that's what the whole family knew us as when we were kids. Curly Vandercrap and Blondie Stinkbottom.
So there's a little bit of a scatological inference there.
That's a little bit. It just
Hey, is there British in your blood?
Is there British in my blood?
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Because the British are
Scatological.
they got the toilet humor, don't they?
Well, they certainly have peculiar sexual habits, I've heard. We should ask in the control room, hey, Connor,
Yeah, is that true, Connor?
do you like to have sex with animals or what?
Forget Connor. Ask his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No? Not all the time. See, there we go.
He likes to mix it up.
Yeah. Not exclusively.
Wow.
Okay, are we having any more, or do we have any more pre-records to run? Hey, Peter Miller, who's the CEO of SLANG Worldwide, spoke to Ben earlier this week, and here's that interview.
SLANG Worldwide Inc. is a cannabis-focused consumer packaged goods company focused on acquiring and developing regional brands as well as creating new brands to meet the needs of cannabis consumers worldwide. The company is backed by Canopy Growth Corporation and headquartered in Toronto. Investors value the company at 645 million Canadian dollars prior to its IPO on the Canadian Securities Exchange on January 29, 2019. The company has a net cash of $20.4 million with management and direct ownership at 34%. SLANG trades under the ticker symbol SLNG.
Welcome to Midas Letter Live. Back in studio to join us again, Peter Miller, CEO of SLANG Worldwide. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Now, your stock has been moving quite prodigiously lately. It was up about 36% over the last 4 sessions last week, the week of April 1st to 5th. The consensus feeling is that the Origin House news, the acquisition, sort of set a floor based on what brands and distributor-centric companies like yourself are worth, and you're sort of the co-leader in the space. Can you comment more about that, about those dynamics and how it's helped raise your profile?
Yeah, I mean, we're brands first. Distribution is an important part of getting those brands on as many shelves as possible. So, of course, it was a a big macro kind of event for us to see Origin House get bought by Cresco for that price. So very validating to the business model on the distribution side. We're in a lot of, like Origin House, in a lot of stores in California. We're also in, 10 other states, Puerto Rico, Canada, and we're more brand oriented. I think, but no doubt it was helpful. People were looking at that trade and saying kind of what else kind of looks and feels and smells like that. But I'd say we're certainly more brand focused.
Your partnership with Trulieve Cannabis, you were able to get on store shelves, the biggest MSO in the state by far, selling about 2/3 of the dry flower content in the state. You're able to get on store shelves without any capital outlays. Now, of course, most vertically integrated MSOs are spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to get organized in state. So is that model replicable to other MSOs in other states, or how are you able to do that? Is that an aberration or not?
No, so I look at that deal in the context of kind of earning your way in versus buying your way in. So what I mean by that is, to buy your way into a market like Florida, which is extremely exciting, you could acquire a license, acquire an operator that has a license. In either case, to your point, you're looking 8 to 9 figures to do that. But what we were able to do was look at the landscape, talk to the biggest operator that you identified, Trulieve, and demonstrate that our brands would pull people off the street into their stores, and our operational know-how would streamline their manufacturing process and help them avoid probably some of the expensive mistakes we've made over the years. So it was really an earn-in to that market, and as such, it didn't cost us any money to get in. We'll have product on shelves very imminently, and we'll be generating revenue in that market. And so that is obviously much more scalable to do those kinds of deals, less dilutive. And it speaks to the spirit of partnership, which we believe in. And in terms of other states, other markets, of course we love Trulieve, and I think if they were in different markets, we'd look to do things with them. But it was seen as really good for Trulieve as well in the market. If you look at the stock as an indicator of how people feel, it was very positive for them. So you can imagine there's other conversations. There's inbound all the time with different groups, but we absolutely would work with any multi-state operator, chain of retailers, anybody who helps us achieve our ultimate goal of getting our brands on as many shelves as possible.
Okay. Now, another big takeaway I had with creating the report and doing some extensive research is going through the Claris Securities research that they put out. I believe that they're the first and only investment bank to put out research on your company. I could be wrong. But one of the things that struck me was their estimation of 52% gross margins and 27 to 29% adjusted EBITDA margin through 2021. Now, is that sustainable to have those type of robust margins when you have to deal with a retail gatekeeper that is also looking after their own margin profile?
We'll see. I think we talk about this in context of long term, what does this look like? And what it looks like is what the rest of the world looks like. So in consumer packaged goods, we look to mature players, we look at what their margins are, and we predict that over time, cannabis will have a similar profile because cannabis is a consumer packaged goods category, albeit a really exciting, quickly growing one. So if you look at the Nestle's of the world, they're in the mid 20% EBITDA margin. And I think that there's some, important gatekeepers, but it's also important to remember that no single chain of dispensaries is more than 2.5 dozen doors. So while we're in 2,600 doors, we achieved that by working with the mom and pops, the chains, by not owning retail. We're not competitive with retail. And as such, we're in the largest chains of Colorado, from LiveWell to Native Roots, Euflora. We're also in, the big operators on the West Coast. Harborside is a great account. MedMen carries some of our products across their network. So ultimately, we want everybody to succeed. The more retailers, the better. Obviously, fewer accounts creates simplicity. And I don't think anyone is in a position to have their elbows out and try to be major...
Squeeze you on margin.
Not yet. we'll see. One day there'll be perhaps a Walmart level player that sells a lot of cannabis, and we're an LCBO type buyer. We're just not seeing that today. It's too early.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding that SLANG products will be coming to Canada sometime in 2019. That was mentioned in the Claire Securities report as well. Do you still expect that to happen? And how would that look like? Are you just, are you following the same model as you follow in the United States? And have you partnered up with any particular retailer in Canada once that rollout happens?
Yeah, great question. So we actually jointly own a licensed producer with Canopy. And that will be the facility through which we do all the co-packing and manufacturing for our brands. And the same way we have the largest retail distribution footprint in the US, they have the largest footprint in Canada right now. So we see them as a great partner to get products to market in Canada. But of course, there's provincial sort of government distributors that other retailers will be able to order off the menu, so to speak. So I think we'll be on a variety of shelves, Canopies and others, but we'll be manufacturing all of our products through that facility that we own together, unless we don't have the capability, in which case, of course, we'd use third parties and partners like we do everywhere else. The supply chain will be organized in whatever way it needs to be to achieve our goal of products on shelves. In terms of what the products will be, that'll be largely driven by what the final regulation looks like. The draft regulation, kind of indicates that vapes will look very similar to our vapes in the US. Edibles will be probably quite different initially, so there'll be reformulations that will have to take place. But I still am hopeful that if the draft regulations go final, we'll be immediately, there in the market.
Do you view selling products online an extension of competing with your retail partners? Thus, you have no plans to create an online shop?
I think online will be really important in the future. Today, we do sell certain pieces of hardware online, especially with the Firefly devices. But again, we also have a great distributor, Green Lane, who does a ton for us, and we have a great relationship and want to extend that relationship. When it comes to THC products like finished goods online, there are going to be some great third parties that do online fulfillment and delivery, and I think we'd aim to be on those platforms, because you can sell stuff on your own online store, but if you're on one of the aggregators like Ease in California, for example, you'll be in a really strong position to have real-time fulfillment. Delivery platforms that are emerging, like the one I mentioned, are game-changing.
Does that include Amazon at all, like some of the big chains, or?
Could be, yeah. I mean, Amazon's selling a lot of CBD right now, and I think sometimes they don't realize it, and maybe they take vendors off, but then they'll pop back up again. So yeah, when people say we're going to be the Amazon of cannabis, I'm like, no, you know what? Amazon will be the Amazon of cannabis. And so again, the same way that certain brands sell products online, I bet they oftentimes sell a lot more of them through Amazon, even if they're sharing some of the margin. We just want to be where as many eyeballs are and where as many people can vote with their dollars for our brands. I wouldn't rule out online, but I do think we'll leverage partnership every step of the way to achieve that goal.
Okay. And lastly, I wanted to give you the platform to talk about what investors can expect upcoming throughout the next 3 quarters, finishing off 2019. Obviously, you're limited in what you can talk about specifically, but perhaps you can give generalities of what investors should expect.
Yeah, so we're not going to guide specifically on revenue or what deals we will or won't do, but in terms of the kind of deals we'll do, I think we'll be on a parallel path of both kind of pioneering and colonizing, if you will. We've pioneered form factors from the 510 thread vape under the O-Pen brand to the convection vape on the Firefly side for dry herb, and with the Pressies, which is a press pill format, single serve at the cash register. And it's important to note that brands don't become brands just because they have a cool logo. They have to stand for something. They have to have some history, something that differentiates them. And so when we're looking at acquisitions, we're looking for companies that have done that have history, that have differentiated themselves. Even if the market's competitive now, Nike is in a competitive footwear market, but they basically invented the modern sneaker, 40 odd years ago.
And they keep reinventing it.
That's why Nike's Nike. They did something that was unique, that was different, that was compelling. The swoosh is a great way to identify that it's Nike, but there's some meat there. Hermes is coming off of centuries of fine craftsmanship. It's not just the orange bag. So when we're looking for brands, we're looking for something like that. We're looking for maybe regional coverage that we don't have. And we're looking for subcategories or segments where we're not very well represented. We're not in topicals. We're not doing a ton on those kind of lower volume categories right now. We started, at vape, which is right near the top, with edibles, with gummies. That's the highest sort of product category within edibles. So acquisitions, we're going to target will be to fill gaps regionally and in the product portfolio. Those companies will have brands that have a history or something that differentiates them.
And of course, you'll be keeping an eye on the Banking Act or the States Act to see what develops. So you get THC on shelves perhaps in the future?
Absolutely. SAFE and states are super interesting. I think SAFE maybe could even happen a little earlier, politically speaking, because the co-sponsors aren't controversial. Everyone, I think, would appreciate the clarity that the banks aren't exposed to any sort of racketeering, money laundering, whatever whole memo violations they could be. So if that opens the banks, I think that the banks then open the exchanges, and the exchanges open a ton of liquidity, which will be very interesting for everybody in the sector.
And then the prohibition comes after that, presumably.
Yeah, I think there's like a wave, and I think I've said it before on this show that once the tax revenue starts flowing, then I think people want to just keep that momentum going. And if you look at the history of prohibition and some of the big companies that have emerged as consolidators, like AB, InBev, Constellation, etc., we're talking multi-hundred billion-dollar market caps in aggregate. Cannabis is getting pretty wild in terms of valuation. The good companies will fulfill those promises that the valuations sort of suggest, and the bad companies won't, and things will diverge. And we believe that looking forward into the future, we'll be one of the good companies, selling great product with a diversified portfolio of brands, and our strategy won't have changed. We'll be a brand company with a great portfolio of products, leveraging partnership to get those products to the shelf, and not exposed to the volatility of commodity prices or the challenges of retail.
Terrific. Well, a great update as always, Peter. Thanks again for joining us in studio. We look forward to following your story as the year rolls along.
Thanks for having me.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
Flowr Corporation is a licensed producer of cannabis with a head office in Toronto and a production facility in Kelowna, BC. Flowr is expanding globally in Portugal and Australia and has signed a distribution partnership with Shoppers Drug Mart. The company recently broke ground on a 50,000 square foot R&D facility in partnership with Scott's Hawthorne. The company has a net cash of $572.64 million, with management and insider ownership at just under 75%. Flowr Corporation listed on the TSX Venture at $2.60 per share on September 26, 2018 under the symbol FLWR.
Joining me today is Flowr Corporation CEO Vinay Tolia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben.
Okay, so getting right into your recent earnings report, you sold 406 grams of premium cannabis, and you did that despite only having about 20% of your main facility up and running. Can you explain to viewers why this was an accomplishment, and what did this signify to the market that you're able to have this strong revenue profile with such limited utility outlay?
Absolutely. So we have been saying for the last couple years just how hard this product is to grow. That's one of the things that makes us different. Is we're talking about all the steps that are necessary in order to sell cannabis at any quality, but let alone premium quality cannabis. It's incredibly hard and it's often overlooked. The fact that we were able to put up these numbers on a partially built facility just speaks volumes to our team and our know-how.
Okay, so should investors extrapolate that if you're producing gross revenues of $3.3 million on about a fifth of that facility? I'm not sure if all of that is the growing portion of it, but should those revenues extrapolate to at least 5 times in the next, say quarter or two, or with the extra production capacity, will it go higher than that?
It'll go much higher than that. We're still scaling up as far as optimizing our yields. So, as you mentioned, we had 20% of our grow rooms operational in Q4. We'll have 100% operational in Q3 this year. And when we're fully operational from that first facility, it'll be a minimum of 10,000 kilos annually of premium cannabis.
Okay, and is this cannabis, do you have organic certification? You don't right now, but are you pursuing organic certification? And if not, why is that not problematic for your company? Do you see that as as an operational advantage or not?
So that's more of a marketing issue. In our minds, what we're trying to do is grow the best and cleanest cannabis. While it may not fall under the organic certification, I find that somewhat misleading, because what we're trying to do is grow plants that have full terpene profiles and that are clean enough to not require a remediation step, a kill step, such as irradiation. Now, the organic process can require irradiation, which affects the terpenes, which affects the taste and flavor of the plant. Our goal is to sell non-irradiated cannabis. So that to us is more important than that certification.
Okay, was that a big selling point to get into Shoppers Drug Mart? That announcement came out March 18th that you were going to be part of their product portfolio. Was that a big selling point that your product doesn't need irradiation? And furthermore, will that product be subject to medical subsidies in terms of patients being able to claim it against their insurance?
Absolutely. So I want to make a distinction that I don't view quality as just irradiated or non-irradiated. It is a handful of things. So for me personally, quality is consistency. How consistently can you grow the same strain so that it has a similar genetic profile? And so, especially when you're talking about patients, these are people treating symptoms. They want the same efficacy time and time again. There's consistency. There's the nurturing of the genetics. There's a lot of what I call TLC, for lack of a better word, how you monitor the environmental conditions, when you add nutrients, when you water, how you trim. That really is about cultivating what I mentioned, the terpene profile of the plant. That's another part. And then there's the cleanliness. Can you have a facility and processes that allow you to grow a plant that's so clean, when it's time for harvest, it can pass Health Canada testing for microbial limits without a kill step. So that's what quality is for me, and that's what's so that was what was so valuable for Shoppers. Remember, Shoppers is they're pharmacists. What they care about is supplying their patients with quality products. So not only does quality product result in a better aesthetic experience, so it smells better, tastes better, but there are so many of these flavonoids, cannabinoids, terpenes that are misunderstood, that have medical benefits. So while this isn't researched, higher quality product leads to better outcomes for patients. That's why Shoppers is so intent on serving their patients with the highest quality product. That's why they approached us. That's why they're such phenomenal partners. And to your point about insurance, yes, absolutely. All the patients who go through Shoppers are eligible for any eligible write-offs on their taxes, as well as, I believe it was Great West a month ago said that they will start reimbursing their customers for specific conditions, but only if they buy through Shoppers. So I think that's something to look forward going out, as additional insurance companies having a similar program.
Yeah, Manulife has a big program as well
they do?
with
Okay.
multiple symptoms. Now, pivoting towards your European Union growth strategy, it's my understanding that you are trying to construct an EU GMP certified facility in the EU. Can you explain what your strategy is for the European distribution and production going forward?
Absolutely. So we view the EU as an incredibly exciting and important market. Again, a different market than here in Canada. It's clearly much more or completely medicinally focused. So we partnered up and acquired 19.8% of a company called Halogen. They have assets in Australia as well as Portugal. And the one in Portugal is very unique. It is the largest cultivation asset potentially in the world. It's a large outdoor grow. They are they have a quota that can exceed 500,000 or 500,000 kilos a year from this one site. So the idea is to get that, build it, get it up and running, and to supply the entire EU with medicinal product from there.
Okay, I think there may be a misconception, or not, as it were. I want to get your opinion on it, that outdoor grow is more for perhaps edibles or more for maybe the low-end recreational market. Do you think that outdoor grows actually can be suitable for the medical market in terms of quality production, even though it is outdoor and perhaps the environment is a little less controlled?
So this product would be headed for extraction and then for the medicinal market. I completely agree with you that outdoor and even greenhouse, for that matter, isn't competing with our premium indoor or anyone's premium indoor flower. These are totally separate markets. So we view the market as bifurcating. I think in the future there will be the premium indoor flower, and then the rest will be biomass. That will be product for extraction. And you mentioned edibles and gummies. All that product is going to come from outdoor in greenhouse. So that'll be really a race to the bottom as far as who can produce more efficiently.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you but if you can extract it and put it into an oil, then you can use it for the medicinal market. But that's not the premium flower for patients like we have here in Canada.
Okay. Now, lastly, the second quarter has just begun, fiscal second quarter of 2019. Can you give investors sort of a rough blueprint, as much as you can, about what catalysts lie ahead for Flowr Corp and what investors should expect, how much you should move the ball forward, say, by the end of the year?
Sure. So we have a lot of exciting expansion plans. So we have, as I mentioned, our first facility, Kelowna 1, that will be fully operational in Q3. We broke ground last October in our R&D facility, which is a partnership with Scott's Miracle Grow, Scott's Hawthorne. That will be done in Q3 as well. These are all on our Kelowna campus. We have plans for a larger grow facility called Kelowna 2. That'll be 4 times the size of our original Kelowna 1 facility. That we're hoping to break ground on mid-year this year. And then we have our NASDAQ listing, which we're still waiting for approval from NASDAQ, but that seems to be on schedule as well.
Any timelines on that specifically, or
no specific time? We can't comment on specific timelines. We're just waiting for final regulatory approval, but we have no reason to believe that there's anything amiss there. But as far as catalysts, so we have our first Kelowna building, second Kelowna building, R&D facility, as well as we will be building a greenhouse and outdoor grow on some agriculture land, approximately 40 acres of ag land across the street from our Kelowna 1 facility. And we're hoping to plant mid-year for that. And to your point, all that product will be headed for the extract markets later this year.
Hey, terrific. Well, a great update. Thanks a lot for joining us again on the program, Mr. Tolia, and we'll look forward to following your story going forward.
Thank you so much.
Auxico Resources Canada Inc. is a Montreal-based mining exploration company founded in 2014. Auxico is engaged in the acquisition, exploration, and development of mineral properties in Mexico and Colombia. Auxico Resources Canada Inc. is listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol AUAG.
Joining me today, we have Pierre Gauthier, CEO of Auxico Resources. Now, you're based in Montreal, correct?
Correct.
And you've been on Bay Street for a long time.
Absolutely.
Like we're a couple of warriors.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes.
And as your ticker would say, AUAG.
Yeah.
Now, it's got to have something to do with gold and silver.
Absolutely.
Periodic symbols for gold and silver.
Absolutely.
And you started off in Mexico.
Yep.
Now, but I understand there's been some developments.
Yep.
And you've been sort of focusing on Colombia.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Colombia.
All right.
Okay.
So when you go to a new country like that, you have to go there with a competitive edge, or else you shouldn't be there. And it happens that.
So did somebody say?
No, my legal assistant in my office is Colombian. Her name is Pilar Acosta, and her husband is Colombian. And as I got to know him, he was the assistant of two past presidents of the country.
This is totally random.
Yeah, it's random. They're in my office. I meet the husband, and he's been the assistant of the past two presidents. He worked for Price Waterhouse for 10 years in Colombia, and he knows everybody.
Is he a financial guy?
He's a financial guy,
Okay.
absolutely.
So he knows top government.
Everybody. So he invited me to go to Colombia for a week. I sat in a hotel room, had 8 meetings a day, and realized he knew everybody.
Come on.
Absolutely. So then
right under your nose.
Yeah, right there. So all of a sudden, with that 1 week, we decided to go there because of the access to properties, people, governments, legislation,
and the
everything.
mood's changed in Colombia from say 7, 8, 10 years ago.
Very good point, Ed. Absolutely. Because
the political situation's a lot.
Well, yeah. Here's what's changed: is that there was a war there for 42 years with the FARC.
Yes.
And that war ended about a year and a half ago. And with that settlement, you had about a third of the country that was off limits in terms of natural resources. So here you have this treasure chest of minerals that's had no activity for 42 years because of this war.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So in my lifetime in mining, when you can catch an event like that, either a political change where the laws get revamped to encourage investment,
yes,
or access to mineral resources that have been off limits for 42 years, that's a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And when you can do that with people with a partner that has access to all the right people, the odds are stacked in your favor.
So you had to give your assistant some stock options.
I did. And his wife.
Yeah. So I know, and everybody that goes to Colombia loves Colombia now.
Yeah.
It's gone from a hated place to a revered place.
Yeah. And there was another consideration
you've got some technology.
That's it. That's what I want to talk about. Absolutely. So there's something called the Minamata Convention in the world. It's a UN convention signed by 144 countries.
Right.
That eliminates the use of mercury in artisanal mining. And Colombia is one of those countries that signed that convention. So they have a problem, is that there's all kinds of people, artisans, that make a living mining gold and extracting it with mercury. They can't put them out of a business. You'd have a revolution on your hands if you stopped that.
And these are artisanal miners.
Artisanal miners.
So they're out there chipping away, trying to make a living, right?
And but they use mercury to extract the gold. So you have
mercury is considered a very poisonous
for the human being and for the environment.
Yeah, I remember in chemistry class we used to play with mercury. And
absolutely.
Don't play with it anymore.
So Auxico has this technology to extract gold and silver without the use of mercury or cyanide.
Now, how did you get that technology?
Well, that was developed in Canada. I've been financing innovation in mining and metallurgy for a number of years.
Yes.
And through an associate company, we licensed Auxico with the rights to this technology. And when the governor of the state of Bolivar found this out, then that would solve his legal problem in terms of creating a new way to extract gold and silver without the use of mercury and allowing the indigenous people to continue to work under legal terms, the right legal terms, okay?
Right.
So we signed an agreement with...
I bet you there's a lot of these indigenous miners that are trying to make right?
What it is here, there's 100 million ounces of gold produced worldwide. 20 million of those ounces are produced by artisanal miners, Africa, Central America, and Latin America.
Wow.
It's huge.
Wow.
So this is a big problem.
There's mom and pop operations.
Yeah. But all the governments now need to solve this. And we happen to have a technology that does not use mercury or cyanide that can do this in one step.
But is this technology, like how proven is this technology?
Well,
I mean, it's early days, right?
It's early days, but you know what? What's the alternative? There's nothing else.
Right.
Okay, so I'll answer it that way, and it's very simple technology. It uses ultrasound extraction to break up particles so that you can get them out faster. It's that simple. If you went to a hospital and you had a kidney stone problem,
I know.
They use ultrasound to break it up.
Well, they clean your teeth using ultrasound, right?
So it's the same thing. If you put ultrasound in ore...
When you get old like me, you got a lot of problems with your teeth. They need a special...
So that's right. So it's inoffensive, but it breaks down particles into nanoparticles and allows you to get them out a lot faster. So we signed with the governor to do this in the state of Bolivar. When that happened, we had about 20 companies call us that wanted the technology. And how we did the business in Colombia.
So what do? They send you samples and stuff?
Well, we sign option agreements on those properties first, because I didn't want to start spending a bunch of money and then have to negotiate terms. So all of a sudden, we're getting all these samples in Canada.
And this is all because of your relationship with your assistant?
Well, no, and the deal with the governor.
The
governor announced this.
He introduced you. Okay.
So that got a lot of press in Colombia. Samples started coming in, and then we started getting these samples that had nothing to do with gold. They were like gravels.
And you're looking at them thinking, what is this?
Absolutely.
But did you test them?
Yeah, of course we did. So on analysis, this is coltan material, tantalum, and niobium,
which are expensive minerals,
very expensive and very rare.
Probably, are they elements? Are they?
Yeah, they're in the periodic table. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so just to talk about that,
but they're rare.
Yeah, they're
very expensive
and very expensive. But now they're being mined in the Congo. Okay. And tantalum goes in. How many cell phones are there in the world today? Maybe 6 billion, as much as many humans. Well, tantalum is in every cell phone and every computer. So the large companies, Samsung, Apple, they have to buy this stuff. It's being produced out of the Congo. And as you know, in the Congo, there's,
well, the Congo is not exactly a picnic place,
No, it isn't, but there's issues with child labor, human rights abuses, etc.
Yeah.
So if you're some of those large companies, you'd rather not buy from there if possible. But if that's the only place it comes from, you're sort of stuck. So all of a sudden, the opportunity for us as a company, that Colombia, the war is over, it opens up, and they have very important reserves of this coltan, and we're right in the heart of this right now.
Did you get some grades that you thought were a bit amazing?
Yeah, we did. These are gravels, and some of our press releases indicate what those grades are, but it's running as high as 35% tantalum. So if you did some math on that a little bit, tantalum sells for $90 a pound. So if you got 35% of your rock that's tantalum, that's about 600 pounds out of a ton. At $30 a ton, do the math on that, it's $50,000 a ton of tantalum value.
$50,000 a ton. I mean, the only thing I know of that's $50,000 a ton is uranium. I'm sure there's some gold deposit, but it's rare.
Yeah.
You start getting into, you get $1,000 rock, people are excited.
That's absolutely.
So 50,000, not 5,000.
No, 50,000. But so what's happened here?
But you don't know how much of this stuff is over there.
Not yet.
Have you gone and taken a?
Absolutely.
Are you going to bring me with you?
Yeah, if you. No, I don't think you want to go. I don't think you want to. But if you want to come, you're most welcome. But it's difficult. But these are gravel deposits.
This is at surface.
At surface, in the riverbeds. And they've been concentrated by nature over the years. So think of a river coming down, and in the bend,
over millions of years.
Yeah, over millions of years. And this tantalum is very heavy. It has it's almost as heavy as gold. It has a specific gravity of 16. Gold is 18. So something really heavy that's being washed all the time stays behind, and the light stuff goes on.
Yes.
So it's this natural phenomena of being washed by nature that creates a concentration with these kind of numbers.
You've taken some photos, and we've got some of those photos now of what these gravels look like, and we can see this on the screen, and that's what you tested.
Yeah, so when we receive samples, in order to have an idea of what they are they hard rock, are they anything else, the lab takes a picture like this before we analyze it, just so we can have a sense of what the material looks like.
Right.
So in this case, you can see these are gravels, they haven't been grounded, they've perhaps been concentrated in riverbeds like I was talking about. So that's what was analyzed in our lab.
So is that niobium and tantalum?
Absolutely. That would be, that sample could be 30, I think it's 30% tantalum, perhaps 20% niobium. And there are other elements in there that are quite fascinating, like scandium, for instance.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so this stuff is just sitting there.
Yep.
Is that right? Am I making it sound a little too easy?
No. Well,
so I should take a trip down there with a bag and start shoveling this stuff in there.
Well, if you knew where it was, you could. But
you're not going to tell me.
No, but this is in the Amazon. Access is really difficult right now. Access is very difficult.
But it sounds like, I mean, if it's just sitting there at surface, most of the time you hit something high grade, it's 500 meters down.
Yeah.
And where do you start, right?
I know. Well, like I said, this is not hard rock, it's gravels that have been concentrated by these are alluvial deposits concentrated by nature.
Sure.
And the indigenous people, when you go in there, you have to work with them, collaborate with them, and we've signed an agreement with the governor of the state of Bolivar now to organize commercial exploitation of this coltan, all right? And then, so there are other elements in here. When you sell it, it can't be radioactive. There tends to be a bit of uranium and thorium in there. So those levels have to be below a certain amount in order to be able to sell it commercially worldwide, you know? So,
Right,
so
right.
we've been doing a lot of lab testing on this, Ed, in terms of how do you increase the values through gravity and magnetic separation? How do you reduce the value of radioactivity? So these are some of the things we can do for the indigenous people as they could supply us their ore, and we have a profit split with them, 70% to us and 30% to them. So we want to bring technology to the table to upgrade the value of the ore, make it more commercial, and allow local people to earn a living with us.
Wow. Fascinating. So you've also shown us a chart. The lower the value of the rock, the much more capital expenditure you need. And therefore, it gets a little boring if you're talking $300-400 a ton. And that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And that's what people want in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I've been in the mining business for 30 years. I've had projects pretty well on every continent all over the world,
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, as you know, high grade rules the game, you know, because that can
Yeah.
offset a lot of mistakes you're going
And
to make.
by the
along
way,
way. Yeah.
before I forget, that chart only went up to 10,000, and
I
you're
know.
talking
Yeah.
you're talking multiples of that.
Yeah, so what I want to explain to you is that 90% of the business lives right down in that corner at the bottom,
Yeah.
where your rock value is never more than $500 a ton. And to make a project happen, you probably need $100 million to do it. So that $100 million creates tremendous dilution for your shareholders.
Right.
Okay, so what kind of project are you looking for? So I have sort of an inverse relationship where you're looking for that project way at the other end that's only $5 million, and you're trying to go to a ton that has the highest value possible. So when you do that, you end up, you know, with less capital needs, and that's what this ultrasound technology can do also. It can extract minerals in 1 hour as opposed to 20 hours. So it reduces your capex.
Was the ultrasound technology, was that created here in Canada?
Yes, it was. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah.
So Auxico, how many shares outstanding?
44 million shares.
44 million shares. And now you because I know, even though we haven't met until recently, you know a lot of the people that I know, and like for instance, Jeff Green is a good friend of mine, and
large shareholder,
and he kept telling me you got to talk to Pierre, you got to talk to Pierre.
Yeah.
He's a big shareholder. You must have a pretty good Rolodex.
Well, you know, I've raised a lot of money in the mining business for over 30 years.
Yes.
On a lot of projects everywhere.
Yes.
But I've never come across a project where the value per ton is even close to this.
It's almost.
Yeah, you know, but it's singular to the limited amount of this material being produced in the Congo and the demand for it outside the Congo. You know, so the buyers now are asking us for a certificate of origin. Okay, we have to say it comes from Colombia. But
does most of it now come from the Congo? Is it all come from the Congo?
60% comes from the Congo. But this could be a big replacement source, okay, because it's a large area, there's a lot of it. And like I said, it's just not the tantalum, but the niobium that's in there and other rare earths as scandium. Okay, scandium sells for $4,000 a kilo. As is in nature, and if you refine it, it's 15,000 a kilo.
So would you have like a couple ounces of scandium? Is it scandium?
Yeah, 4 kilos. We have up to 4 kilos of scandium per ton.
What?
4 kilos per ton. And if you can put that, and if you can refine that, it's worth 15,000 a kilo times 4 kilos. That's $60,000 worth of scandium.
And that's just the scandium.
It's in there. But now we wouldn't be paid for that, because now if you sell this coltan, they'll pay you for the tantalum and nothing else. So the challenge is, let's start selling these tons as soon as possible so we can create some cash flow.
Right.
And then let's see what we can do about taking out the niobium and the scandium and create more value added per ton. Okay, so that's our game plan really right now.
Yeah, so got to be exciting. You know, I mean, it sounds like you just
well, you know,
fell into this kind of.
Yeah. We did, because of the geopolitics, the area becoming open, having access to the right people, and having a technology that can contribute to optimizing the value of these, okay? And it's not only Colombia, it's Colombia and the border of Venezuela and the border of Brazil. There's a whole geologic area that covers these 3 countries. And the geology doesn't know there's a frontier. It's all the same geology everywhere.
Of course. The
exactly.
assets don't know who owns them.
That's right. So we've tested the stuff in Venezuela, in Brazil, and Colombia. So it's not unique to Colombia. It's really in these 3 countries.
So this is a pretty big deposit.
Well, you know, we
can't talk about it, but it looks like it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, but you know,
at surface.
Yeah, at surface. So back to the chart. You know, you're not going to have excavators in there breaking the rock to try and mine it. You're not going to have to crush it. You can sell it as is in the picture that's there. All right, so hopefully we'll be concluding some sales here in the near future, and then that'll indicate to the marketplace
is your
what this is
plan
really
to
worth.
generate some cash flow off of this?
Absolutely. Right now,
even if even a few $100,000 a month to a small mining company is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
As you know.
Yeah. So I can tell you that we're in touch with 5 different trading outfits: Japan, Canada, China, etc. They all want this material, and there's specific rules you have to follow. For sales, you have to have it in a Brinks warehouse. You have to have independent analysis.
Yes.
You have
There has to be a protocol.
All of these things, yeah. So we're into those protocols right now, and I think we'll announce our first sales within the next 30 days.
Pierre, thanks for coming in. We're going to leave it there. We're going to have you back real soon to find out what's going on, because this sounds like something that could be really big.
I know it's hard for some of you guys out there to appreciate the coverage of mining that we insist on continuing even while the cannabis craze is on. But the reason for that is because mining is a peculiar investment animal. It can be dormant for many years, like it has been for the last 10, and then when everything else is in the toilet, it can come roaring back faster than anything and make millionaires out of people overnight.
To your point, Hudson's Bay Mining has more than doubled since Christmas, which
Hudson's Bay Mining,
a producer. Hudson's Bay Mining has more than doubled. In fact,
wow,
why take
incredible.
my word for it?
Coming up just in a few minutes, Cam's going to be here in the studio. So that's the highlight of our day and the highlight of our week. All right, so Cam, get in here.
Aurora Cannabis is one of the world's largest and leading cannabis companies. Headquartered in Edmonton, Alberta, the company has a funded capacity in excess of 500,000 kilograms per year and sales and operations in 23 countries across 5 continents. Aurora is involved in all elements of the cannabis supply chain, from facility engineering and design to cannabis breeding and genetics research, cannabis and hemp production, derivatives, high value add product development, home cultivation, wholesale and retail distribution. Aurora Cannabis has 15 wholly owned subsidiary companies, including MedRelief, Canvas RX, Aurora Deutschland, and has strategic partnerships with a range of companies, including Radiant Technologies Inc., Hemco Food and Fiber Inc., and McCann Group Limited. Aurora Cannabis trades on the New York Stock Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol ACB.
Joining me today is James West, global cannabis investor and filmmaker. Thank you for joining me.
Cam, thanks for having me.
Now, you look a little bit like a guy who has spent far too many hours on an airplane. Do you want to tell me about where you're coming from?
Yeah, so I just landed from Lima, Peru.
People tell me that every day. I just landed from Lima, Peru. Do you want to tell me why you were in Lima, Peru?
As a matter of fact, I was meeting with some people who are developing a cannabis biotechnology play down there. And as you might know, cannabis is a nation. Peru is a nation of 32 million people.
Yes.
There is currently.
Do they use cannabis?
They use cannabis recreationally. It's not prohibited, but it's not regulated either.
What is the medical status of cannabis?
So they just revised a law and introduced a new law that will now allow for the medical production and distribution of cannabis by pharmacies, but only medical and only in extracted form.
So it could be a good-sized market. What's the population roughly?
32 million.
Okay, so good-sized population.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller in Canada.
Right, but the interesting thing is that there's various sort of free trade groups that are aligned. So they're aligned with Colombia and Chile and Venezuela in Mercosur.
Right.
And I think I've got that backwards, actually. It's Argentina in Mercosur, and this is the Pacific Alliance.
Right, the Pacific Alliance. So with Chile and Mexico. Yeah.
So theoretically, you're actually tapping the whole 500 million potential cannabis audience.
And are there any approved licensed suppliers of medical cannabis in Peru right now?
There are none that we are aware of. Okay. And all of the website data that's available suggests that there's nobody who's actually got a license yet and is in the process of developing it. So we'll be one of the first.
If we change places, I could put a different hat on and think about.
This isn't right. Aren't I supposed to be interviewing you? Let's get this right, shall we? Come on. Joining me now is Chief Corporate Officer of Aurora Cannabis, Cam Battley. Cam, welcome back.
Nice to see you again.
Cam, the news is all about Aurora Sun these days.
All of the news?
Well, all the news that I've been following, and it's largely because you've got a facility now that you're basically saying is going to be more technologically advanced than Aurora Sky, is going to produce more cannabis than Aurora Sky, and do so in a much more sophisticated manner. Tell us about that.
Well, it is a big piece of news, and I think, do you guys have a photo that I took this week of Aurora Sky itself?
Okay, there we go.
You guys are good. So what you're looking at there is one of the 17 flower rooms at Aurora Sky, 34,000 square feet. And what you're looking at there, in addition, is incredibly happy, healthy plants. Just look at them. They're perfect. And in this particular photo, and I actually have it up on my Twitter account at Cam Battley as well, we're not using lights because we're using the sun. And we're getting plenty of light from the sun, no need for the lights. But the beauty of this is we have validated the Sky class concept. That's what Aurora Sky has done. That's an 800,000 square foot facility producing over 100,000 kilograms of cannabis per year. And we believe that we're going to do so at Sky for less than $1 a gram. Now, the news this week out of Aurora Sun in Medicine Hat, which we're constructing right now, is that we're upsizing it or supersizing it from 1.2 million square feet to 1.6 million square feet. And the amount of cannabis that we'll produce there, we anticipate will be in excess of 230,000 kilograms per year.
Whoa, that's a lot of cannabis.
It's a lot of cannabis.
So if I was a betting man, I would suggest that you are obviously building feedstock for a global export market.
Yeah. So we our read, based on a lot of travel, like you, we've been traveling a lot. I've recently come back from Australia and Israel and Europe. Is the demand for legal regulated cannabis is exploding around the world. There's more than 40 countries now with either intact or in place medical cannabis systems, or that have announced that they're going to create and establish new medical cannabis systems. And there's a massive shortage of legal regulated product. There's no shortage of cannabis in the world, but there's a huge shortage of legal regulated cannabis. So we have the opportunity, by scaling up now and producing a tremendous amount of premium cannabis at low costs, it puts us in the driver's seat for now, and that's a very exciting position to be in. In addition, at some point in the future, people have speculated that there could be oversupply in Canada. Well, that doesn't really worry us because we're going to be producing premium product at a much lower price than virtually anybody else. I don't think too many producers will be able to match the cost that we're able to
One of the aspects of the global cannabis marketplace that is overlooked by many investors, is not really front and center in the conversation, is the idea that if you're going to export a product for medical consumption in another country, it has to be EU GMP certified.
Oh, how I love those letters. EU GMP.
I wish it spelled something more phonic.
There must be some anagrams we could come up with, maybe something rude. Yes, so there are 8 EU GMP certified production facilities in the world. One of them is Bedrocan BV in the Netherlands. The other 7 are Canadian. We have 2 of them. And we also have our EU GMP certified distributor, Aurora Deutschland, formerly Pedanios. And it's our intention to continue with the audits and get the rest of our production facilities EU GMP certified. Okay, so that's the highest level of certification in the world, the same level of certification demanded of European pharmaceutical companies, and we believe it'll be adopted as a standard by other countries around the world as a means of ensuring that they have high quality, properly regulated products entering their newly created medical cannabis systems. So right now things are going exceedingly well for Aurora. Production is hitting that hockey stick that we always anticipated once the first of our Sky class facilities came on board. We have every single room at Sky populated and in production right now, and we're getting the yields that we needed. So in order to say that we believe that we validated this, you need to be able to say that you're getting the yields that you expected, so that you could end up with 100,000 plus kilograms per year. In fact, we're a little bit ahead of that. So this gives us a tremendous amount of confidence. We're doing exceedingly well.
Right. That's very exciting. And I'm curious now, so right as of the last sort of data set, we know that Aurora and Canopy were over 50% of the cannabis sold in Canada.
In Canada, in the consumer market.
In the consumer market.
Yeah.
So we know that currently the market is in undersupply. So are you going to single-handedly cause oversupply in Canada by having suddenly this literally tons of cannabis for sale?
I've been accused of a lot of things, but never single-handedly causing oversupply. So no, I don't think that will happen. I think you may see some pressure on some of the smaller, less efficient producers who are not able, who don't have a differentiating or distinguishing feature and are not able to produce particularly economically. The product's going to be there. The question is, who's going to produce it? Where's it going to come from? How high quality will it be? And at what cost? And we like to look to the future where we're going to be producing a very significant amount of both the medical and the consumer cannabis consumed in Canada. But beyond that, and I would say as a top priority, we are going to be exporting our Canadian-produced medical cannabis around the world. The demand is there. We've got the product now. We're going to have a heck of a lot more of it next year, and we're going to be shipping it around the world.
Sure. So in your peregrinations around the planet,
peregrinations,
do you like that one? Do you?
I do.
I spent all night thinking that one up. Do you get the sense that ex of the United States, which has obviously got a protectionist president in place, but ex of the United States, do you get a sense that the global marketplace for cannabis is going to be a free and open
market? It has to be. At least for now, it has to be. You take a look at Germany. We just we haven't talked about this, but we won 5 of the 13 tenders to supply the German system, which means we're cemented into Germany, and we're going to be building a production facility there. Great news. But the German government also came out and very realistically said we're going to be importing for quite some time, because they know that, based on these initial tenders or even far more tenders, there's no way that there would be enough domestically produced in Germany in the short term to be able to satisfy the needs of patients in a rapidly growing system, by the way. So yeah, we're going to be exporting from Canada into Germany for quite some time, and a number of other countries. And the reason for that is very, very simple. There just aren't legal, regulated production facilities in countries around the world. There's only a very, very small number around the world. Most of them are now in Canada. And fortunately, we're one of the companies that actually has enough product to be able to supply the domestic medical system, the domestic consumer system, and have excess to ship overseas and receive a premium price for. So it's a very enviable situation that we're in right now.
Sure, you bet. And so far has the other buzz that sort of surrounds Aurora when you bring it up in conversation.
Sorry, the what? The buzz?
The buzz. Yes, the buzz. The conversation. The the zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist. Okay.
It surrounds what's going to happen with Nelson Peltz there, and you made it very clear that you're not looking for a Constellation type of takeover arrangement. You're looking to create multiple partnerships with global players around the world, and I'm assuming that that's something that we're still anticipating that will be a result of your recruitment of Mr. Peltz to your board.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny. We were initially a little bit puzzled when Canopy did their deal with Constellation, and then Kronos did their deal with Altria. That everybody kept saying, "You have to have a deal like that, Aurora." Well, why? Is that necessary? And quite frankly, there was a little bit of everybody's got to follow the leader ethic at play. And we sat back and looked at things a little bit differently. And I like to think that that's the way we do things at Aurora. We sit back and look at things a little bit differently, the way we do with cultivation and our entire business strategy. And we said, do we actually have to make a deal with one company in one mature industry and give up control? We don't think so. So our plan is optimally, touch wood, we hope it works out, is to work with Nelson Peltz, who's frankly amazing. He's really great to work with.
Wow.
And see if we can't put together multiple partnerships in multiple different verticals. If you think of all the verticals that are affected by cannabis, either via disruption or by the creation of new and enhanced opportunities, it's so many things. We know about Kronos and tobacco, but take a look at wellness products. Take a look at not just beverage alcohol, but non-alcoholic beverages, cosmetics and beauty, and pharma. And the list goes on if you want to add different segments of consumer packaged goods. So the opportunities are significant, and we want to see if it's possible for our cannabis company to play in multiple verticals. We think it It is possible. And I can't think of anybody better than Nelson Peltz to help us navigate this.
Excellent, Cam. Well, that's a great update, as per usual. We're going to cut it there for now because there's so much more to come. And we'll have you back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Cool.
If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. Whoa, that was great. I love Cam. Anyways, maybe you can tell. But so there you have it, folks. There's our show for the week. And yeah, it's going to be a lot more, lot denser information.
A lot less.
A lot less about our mindless banter, which is, I'm going to miss that, Ed.
Well, you know what? You could just look in the mirror and talk to yourself.
I could do that with my, what? In my hand? No, that's it. Okay, so we'll be back next week. We've got a bunch of great guests. Don't forget to tune in Monday from 1 till 4 Eastern Time. We're going to be coming to you live from the Paradigm Biosynthetic Cannabinoids Conference being held at the Design Exchange in downtown Toronto. That's this upcoming Monday. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.